Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with classic pumpkin pie. That's right, I'm finally making public the secret Food Wishes version for this iconic Thanksgiving dessert. And no matter how dry your turkey is or how lumpy your gravy, if you put this out for dessert, all will be forgiven, not forgotten. Right, we are talking about family, but it will be forgiven. So let me show you how to do this. The good news, easiest pie filling ever. So check it out. So we're going to start with 1 can of pumpkin puree in a mixing bowl. Do not use pumpkin pie filling. That's got a bunch of stuff in it. We're going to put our own stuff in. So 1 can of pumpkin puree, to which we're going to add 1 whole egg plus 3 egg yolks. And if you're one of these people that always gets that giant crevice, that big gaping crack down the middle of your pie after it's cooled, you're going to love this recipe. This has been adapted to avoid that. The main reason for that problem is overcooked egg white. When that cools, that causes that big crack, that separation. We're not going to have that here. So good news there. Plus, it's also going to be a little richer, a little more custardy because of the extra egg yolk. All right, so everybody wins. Okay. Next up, we need our dairy and our sugar, which we're going to get in the same ingredient by adding 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. I really like this better than the recipes that call for evaporated milk and sugar. And believe it or not, that's pretty much our pumpkin pie filling, except, of course, for the spices. And here's what I put in. This has always been a closely guarded secret that was only recently declassified. We're going to go with some freshly grated nutmeg. You know we always grate our nutmeg fresh here at Food Wishes. If you're using pre-ground nutmeg out of a can that you bought before there was an internet, maybe time to get some fresh stuff. We're also going to add some cinnamon, a pinch of Chinese 5-spice, you know, to be mysterious, and some ground ginger. All right, so we're going to take a whisk and we're going to mix that very, very thoroughly. And as I was mixing this, I realized I'd forgotten one of the most important ingredients, the salt, which sounds kind of weird for a dessert. But without that salt, you're going to get a very flat taste. You just really need that to bring out the sweetness and the flavors in the other ingredients. So don't forget the salt. So I tossed that in, and once that was mixed very, very, very thoroughly, it's time to pour it into a prepared pie shell. Now, of course, I'm assuming you're going to go to Food Wishes and watch our video on how to make pie dough. But if you don't, that's fine. You could use pre-made, pre-rolled pie dough like I did. It's fine. It's Thanksgiving. There's a lot going on. Don't judge me. But of course, if you do use pre-made pie dough, at least go around with your finger and make some imperfections so it looks like you did it yourself. It will give the impression that you care. All right? So regardless whether it's homemade or store-bought, we're going to pour in our filling. We're going to give it a little shake-a-shake-a. And then, of course, the old tappa-tappa. And why we're doing that, because there might be air bubbles in the filling, which, of course, would cause, well, they wouldn't cause anything. Absolutely no problem at all. But it's traditional. We give it the old tappa-tappa, so do it. And once you tap that, we're going to place that in the center of a preheated 425-degree oven for just 15 minutes. Then turn it down to 350 for another 30 to 35 minutes, or until it's just barely set. And here's how you're going to be able to tell. We're going to test it with the tip of a knife. They generally say to go in about 1.5 inches from the edge to test, which I did. And you see that perfectly clean. So that means the pie's done. Even if the center's slightly undercooked, it will continue to cook as it cools. But you'll see here, I tested all the way to the center and it came out clean. And that was just after 30 minutes at 350. So don't go any farther than that. Do not overcook this. That will cause it to crack when it cools, okay? And by the way, see that mark there? I made that with the edge of the towel. It was very unfortunate. So I'm just going to put that on a rack. We're going to cool that completely before we try to cut it. I actually prefer it chilled, but that's just me. But at least let it cool all the way down to room temperature. And was I upset that I marred the surface of my beautiful pumpkin pie just to demonstrate that doneness stuff with the knife? Yeah, a little bit. But that's okay. My Photoshop skills are legendary, and we have whipped cream, which of course is going to let us cover any flaws. So I'm going to put a very, very sexy dollop of whipped cream on there. And just in case you're not sure how to do a very sexy dollop of whipped cream, check out this slow motion footage. It's all about that half turn at the end. So you're going to give it a twist, 3 thrusts, and the pull. And there you go. And then to finish, a little light dusting of cinnamon just to give it that final magazine cover quality look. And not to be immodest, because you know I am very, very extremely humble, but that really does look awesome. And that is done. The official Food Wishes version for classic pumpkin pie. And like I said earlier, by tweaking that recipe with the eggs, not only do we have a virtually crack-proof pie, but it's also going to be a little richer, a little creamier, a little more custardy, which is what I think makes this so special, okay? So I really hope you give that a try. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info, as usual. And as always, enjoy.